Ever. There we go.
Hey.
A professional start to a video, right, folks? StreamYard hung. Listen, as you probably know me by now, I am Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. With me, it's going to be a special episode of the Tavern, is Jim Kitchen. You might know Jim from various auctions in the gaming community. Is probably where you'd see Jim's face the most, or his voice. Yeah, you what? Gary Con,
Gen
Texas
Con, Gary
now.
Con,
Yeah,
2 years in a row at North Texas. I do a lot of auctioneering. I think that probably where I really try to throw a lot of my weight. I enjoy auctioneering, but fundraising for charities is really where my heart lies. We've we've done outstanding work at Gen Con. Um, we've done outstanding work at GaryCon. This past GaryCon in March, we raised $30,000 for Wounded Warrior Project.
nice.
North Texas, we had the highest auction they've ever had to benefit the show. All of these are worthy causes. I'm looking forward to Gen Con in August, and more importantly, we've got something coming up at the end of the week that
Why
you've
we
been
have you
very
here?
very kind to let me talk about today.
So, I read about. I haven't gone to Gary Con in a few years. I may have bumped shoulders with Aaron, but I don't know him. So please tell us about him and let us know him.
So one of the hallmarks of the role playing game community is that we all have different tribes. I think that's a great way of talking about it. We have different groups that we sort of self select and we find people of a common theme. The first time I ever went to a convention was in 1993 at Origins. I'd been to other smaller local shows, but it was the first time I'd ever been to a national show. And one of the most amazing things to me was that they had just given up and given everybody who played Starfleet battles their own venue for what they were doing
Oh,
because
yeah.
these guys were coming in from all over the world to play Starfleet battles and to compete. And it was the first time where I really realized how big a community can be within RPGs, tabletop games, and so on and so forth. So the question is, who is Aaron? The Dungeon Crawl Classics community is one of the healthiest, most vibrant communities within the RPG space. I
I
say that
yeah.
without hesitation or reservation. Joe Goodman really made an effort to find people to pick up the banner and say, we've got this really interesting game. We've got some mechanics that are a little different, but more than anything else, it's not the game that sells DCC. It is the community. It's people who, the tagline on one of the buttons from the very first release was, play like it's the 1970s. And there is sort of there's sort of a wacky element to it. You start with 0 level characters and you start with a handful of character sheets and they're
Yeah.
just dying off in droves. And then finally somebody gets to first level and you're like, oh my gosh, he survived. But very quickly, the DCC community gelled around the Google groups, the Google
Oh,
community.
the old Google Plus. Yes.
Yes, Google Plus. They began really networking at a few key shows. Gen Con is one of them, but the other one is GaryCon. And when that all started to come together, one of the very first people involved in the community was Aaron Koelman. Aaron is somebody who had been a supporter and a patron of Doug Kovacs, the linchpin artist for so
Oh
much
my
of
God.
DCC artwork.
I have his
Um,
original artwork on my wall.
and he had bought several pieces from Doug, but he was one of these people that you just saw at GaryCon every year, at Gen Con every year, and he was this affable, gigantic Minnesotan. If there's a stereotype of the Viking sort of Norwegian ancestor from Minnesota, Aaron's absolutely it. But just one of the nicest people you could ever hope to meet. And and so I got to know Aaron through the DCC community. You got to know that if he was at your table, you had somebody who wasn't going to try to blow the party up or steal from the party and try to work together to get where you wanted to go. And I'd been friends with Aaron. I've probably been friends with Aaron for 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
COVID sort of throws you off on that count, but for quite a while.
Right.
I knew that he had a son. I knew that he was a single dad. And so this year at GaryCon, um, Aaron showed up on, I think it was Wednesday night or whatnot, and said, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you." And I said, "Sure." And you're sort of hanging out in the Grand Geneva sort of bar, and he says, "No, I sort of want to talk to you alone." I said, "Okay." Um, and that's when Aaron first told me that he has spent most of the past year fighting stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Jeez.
This is tough stuff. Um, we have to be honest about these things.
Yeah.
I know you're a cancer survivor, right?
Yep. Lymphoma stage 2. I was, it wasn't
Um,
fun, but yes.
I lost my father. It'll be 4 years in October, and it was brief, but it was horrible. It was horrific, and so Aaron tells me he's been through numerous rounds of chemotherapy. Um, he is fighting the entire way, and we sort of have a chat about being dads. I have a son. I have a teenage son who's getting ready to go off to college. I'm a little further ahead on that track than Aaron is,
Right.
but all the fears that you would have as a father come out in the conversation, and we're talking about it. And Aaron's a private guy. I don't think really anybody outside of his immediate family. He's got a wonderful, wonderful girlfriend who has stuck by him through all of this, and he really hadn't told anybody else. And so I said, when somebody comes to you with something like this, you just say, "What do you need? How can I
Right.
help?" And he didn't really know. And so we talked a little bit more. And one of the things that came up is he's worried about what happens to his son if Aaron loses the battle. And I think I have a neighbor who's an anesthesiologist. We were talking about pancreatic cancer yesterday, and I have said, Aaron said he's got about a 10% chance of survival. It may be much lower than that. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer isn't a joke.
Yeah.
This is not light stuff. This is as heavy as it gets.
Yep.
And I said to Aaron, "Well, what if we were to do some kind of benefit to try to help you raise money for a college fund for your son? Would that help?" And he said, "That would be great." But you could see some reluctance, some hesitancy, because this is taking something very private and making it very public in a very, very big way.
Yeah. It is.
And I said, "Okay, you think about this, and when you're comfortable with it, let me know, and we'll see what we can pull together." And so I would say it was a few weeks after GaryCon that Aaron said, "Okay." He after the conversation with me, I told him, I said, "You need to pick some of your trusted friends at this show and have the same conversation with them." I said, "Because I think you'll find that it gets easier the more you say these words out loud that you don't want to say." And I said, "And then you're going to discover just how many friends you have, and how incredibly wealthy you are with these friends that are a part of this bigger community." So Aaron did. And like I said, I think it was about 3 weeks later, Aaron said, "Okay, if you want to organize something, go ahead." And so I reached out to a number of the key folks within the DCC community, Bob and Jim Brinkman, Doug Kovacs, Joe Goodman, Harley Stroh. I don't want to leave anybody out, but it's a very long list.
Oh God. Yeah.
And I said, I would like to organize a charity auction. We'll take donations, whatever anybody would like to do, and we'll see what we can do to benefit Aaron. Joe Goodman has been tremendous. This is not something organized by Goodman Games. This is just friends of Aaron. You know, I
Right.
should be very clear about that. But Joe has been kind enough to donate the time on his Twitch stream for us to do this live auction. And then after sort of sending out my email and making a few phone calls, the commitments and the donations have started to pour in. I can't tell you. I can't tell you the unbelievable generosity that we're seeing. I know you're showing pictures of Aaron with his son.
Yeah.
You know, this is a 6-year-old boy that's possibly facing not having a father going forward. And that's I mean, I practiced saying these words before I got on this call with you, but it still doesn't come any easier.
No.
And truthfully, almost immediately the responses came pouring in. Earl Otis is donating the cover artwork to DCC module number 18. Doug Kovacs has gone into his archives and you'll see some pictures from Doug right there. He's donating some originals that have appeared in one of the flavors of the Monster Manual and one of the Unearthed Arcana. The picture that's up right now is a picture of the inside of a DCC rulebook. Normally, what Doug is willing to do is draw some sketches if you bring a DCC rulebook to a show. He's actually taking the time to draw something just absolutely spectacular inside that rulebook. The artists within the sort of DCC stable have donated. I still have things coming in. You know, I'd like to donate this. I'd like to donate this. We intended to have a catalog of everything by the 1st of July, but it just continues. Oh, don't show my Facebook page. Good heavens.
That's okay. Well, I'll get
July 4th. So I always go a little silly on July 4th with memes. But there's one of Doug's illustrations from Unearthed Arcana. We have somebody who's donated a true first printing of the Deities and Demigods book. There's the cover, the Earl Otis cover for DCC 18, Citadel of the Demon Prince. Harley Stroh, if you're familiar with DCC at all, there was a wonderful box set a few years ago called The Purple Planet.
I have it.
Purple Planet. And so Harley did not pitch that originally as an RPG. Actually, Harley pitched that as a small mini game, a la the old TSR mini games like Revolt on Antares and Vampire and so on. And so he made 2 physical copies of this little game that he thought would be fun for Joe to publish. And so he made one for himself and he made one for Joe. And so the counters and the map board and the rule book and everything. And he is donating his copy. It's one of only 2 to exist.
Damn.
And he has donated that to the auction. Harley has donated his personal first printing DCC RPG rulebook that he has had at every table, at every game, at every con since DCC came out. Wow. And he's donating that to the auction. The number of things that are coming out of the woodwork, I'm still getting emails, but we're going to have almost 3 hours worth of material to auction off on Friday night. And I couldn't be happier.
Now, what time on Friday is this kicking off?
So we're kicking off at 9:00 Eastern, 8:00 Central on the Goodman Games Twitch channel. And so I'll get a link and we'll get that up.
Because I do a live stream on Friday nights that kicks off at 8 Eastern. And I'm going to have to shut these guys up before 9:00 because I'm not going to be part of the live stream after 9:00. I'll tell you that much.
Well, and I think we've done this for a couple of Goodman Games' online conventions. We use Twitch as a medium. We have people bid in the chat channel. As soon as an auction is over, the person who has the highest bid gets in touch with the person who's handling payment, and we get that all sorted. One of the things that has come through is we've had a number of donators who have said, "Don't worry about shipping. I'll ship it to whoever wins." So some of the items have no shipping costs. Shipping costs are always nominal. We've never had anybody that's complained. It's always been actual shipping costs. There's no handling.
Right.
I should also say that there's some serious heavy lifting. I think with charity auctions, what you absolutely have to have is you have to have as much transparency as possible.
Yes.
This auction will be recorded, so you'll have a clear idea of how things have gone and so on and so forth. The auctioneer should not be the person handling money. To that effect, John Hirschberger from Black Blade Publishing is going to be taking care of all of the financial back end. So he'll be the one sending out invoices as auctions are finished.
Couldn't be
He's
in
the
better
one.
hands. Wow.
He's the one who's currently. We are actually taking donations. If you don't want to bid in the auction, if you just would like to send some money, you can do that through PayPal, and the email is tacojohndm@yahoo.com via PayPal. So it's TACOJOHNDM, one word, at yahoo.com. And so if anybody watching this wants to just make a donation, you can. The last update I had from John a couple days ago is that we were just short of $1,000. And I think as we sort of get this out a little bit more and we get closer and closer to Friday, I think that number is just going to grow.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of times when you have benefits, whether it's for people with health issues or people who pass, we recently had Terry Pavlik pass in the community, one of the artists. The Tavern will do a match when people from the Tavern do donate. So I think I matched one. I think we had 150 from the Tavern, so I matched 150. I'll figure out how to encourage a good match on this one from the Tavern.
Well, and let me talk to something real quick here, right? I had somebody very early on who said, what if he lived?
Awesome.
No, that wasn't really sort of how they meant.
To me, it's awesome.
But what if he lives? Well, Jesus Christ, that's what we want.
Yes.
You know, don't be the thistle-headed dundermuffin that thinks that just because he lived. This is an effort to try. I mean, I can't imagine what hell Aaron has been through in the last year. I just can't. None of us can, unless you've actually been through round after chemo.
Yep.
If you've had a stent fall out and all of a sudden your blood tests don't look very good and they have to do an endoscopy to see what's going on. This is somebody who, despite the crushing weight on his shoulders, has managed to just continue to be this graceful, decent human being. I told Doug Kovacs, I said, you know, anybody that makes a donation to this auction, I'll owe a favor to. I'll spend the rest of my life paying off the markers from this auction. Doug said that I might pay out sexual favors, but I told him that was really
not. It is Doug, but yes.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. But I try very hard to have some separation from these things, but I can't be separated from this. I rarely beg. I rarely plead, but I would beg and plead and cajole and arm twist anybody who is sitting on the fence about this to please find it in your heart, $5, $10, $25. If we have something that you can't live without, bid like you want it. I have been a part of this glorious industry. It'll be 30 years next year. I actually worked at a store before that, but I started at the Armory in March of 1993. And before that, I'm like everybody else, right? I got my Holmes Basic set for my birthday, the year I turned 12. And I think this community, this wonderful, wonderful community of ours, has heart, has a thoughtfulness to it that oftentimes is derided or ignored, or people who don't understand it don't get it. But I would not have brought this forward if I did not passionately believe that we have the right person to benefit from the kindness and generosity of strangers. You've seen the pictures of Aaron's son. The notion that he might grow up without a father is horrific.
Yeah.
But if we can do something to make sure that he's got a better start going forward, then how can we not do that?
No, it's rough. I mean, my son was just sort of 14 when his mother passed, and technically he's not even my son. He's my ex-girlfriend's son, who I inherited because he became mine. And I understand a child losing their parent at that age and how it destroys their world. And the best we can do is support and try to make it easier.
You can't soften a loss like that.
No,
You
you
can't
can't.
soften a blow like that. What you can do is hold hands and be there and try to help them understand. And that's not my role. I'm hundreds of miles away from Aaron. He's in Minnesota. He's got a local support network that I think is as good as anybody could ever hope for. And truly, his girlfriend is just amazing. She's going to have a couple of items in the auction. She hand makes little monsters. We sold a couple of Gary Con for the charity auction, and they were just great. But I can say this, right? I honestly mean this. I'm a better person for knowing Aaron. I'm a better person because when I talk to him, and I try to talk to him at least once a week if I can, my work schedule isn't actually conducive to I'm a bit of a vampire because of work right now. But when I talk to him, he just demonstrates this serenity and grace that my father had at the end. If you ask my father, who was riddled with cancer, how he was doing, he would say, I'm great. I'm great. And even though I knew all the ugly truth, at the heart of things, he was great. He was at peace with everything. And Aaron, I've never talked to Aaron where the conversation begins with he's having a bad day. I mean, he's got some potholes in the road and he's trying to navigate it. But we should all be so lucky as to have an Aaron Koelman in our lives, because they make us realize all the ways that we can be better. And come on, like, I am not a subtle auctioneer.
No, oh my God! But you're awesome. You're
but okay, you don't have to like me. That's all right. I'm not for everybody, and I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And I'll for charity auctions, I will arm twist. I will turn you upside down. I will shake the money out of your pockets. I will do all the things I'm supposed to. As an auctioneer for regular auctions, my job is to get the most money I can for whatever we're selling. But this is going to be a tough night on Friday.
Yeah.
And we are trying to do good work here. And that's why I was very pleased that you had me on for the Tavern to talk about this. I've made my post on Facebook public, so you can share it if you want, if anybody wants to share it. But I would say to the Tavern as a whole, I know Aaron has read the Tavern. I can't say that he's an active member, but he's absolutely somebody that deserves your support, your kindness, your thoughts, your prayers, whatever. He's a good guy, and that's why we're doing this.
Again, I am very proud of being a member of this community, this gaming community, the OSR, DCC, and all that it entails, because the people are some of the most generous, caring, giving people, not just in times like this, but when people have questions on how to produce something. I need help with layout. And somebody steps up and gives them a 2-hour layout lesson. You don't see that in other communities. This is because
and come on, right? We've been through a little bit of turmoil recently with what I would call personalities,
right?
And let's not get into the specifics of that, right? I'm an auctioneer, right? I play in a bunch of games where I can at North Texas or Gary Con, but any claim to fame I have is an auctioneer, and that's only that's come about in the last 7 or 8 years. I'm just a guy in the community, and my ability to help is what I can try to coordinate and what I can try to arm twist some friends and beg and cajole and so on. But this isn't about personality. This isn't about this isn't about a Patreon. This isn't about touring Devil's Tower, Wyoming with celebrities. This isn't getting a chance to play. We do actually, that reminds me, we actually do have somebody who has put in that one of the things that you can win is a virtual game with Earl Otis playing DCC, Dying Earth, to the Jack Vance adaptation. And so that's something that you could put together, a foursome, and then you get to actually play a game with Earl Otis. And if you've never played with Earl, it's amazing. Earl's one of the best people I've ever played at a table with. But that's the kind of things that have come pouring in that tells you how respected Aaron is by the people who know him or the people who care. This isn't about ego. All of my ego is checked at the door. If you want me to put on a silly hat and dance around at Gen Con and make a fool of myself with a hula hoop, if it'll get Aaron another $100, I'll be center stage. I don't care. I just want this to go well because it has to.
Yeah. There's no other option.
There is no other option. And the person who asked me, well, what if Aaron lives? If Aaron lives, that's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like his son isn't still going to need a college education. Or an education of some kind, right? Because I don't want to say that he's just got to go to college. Maybe his son becomes a tradesman. Maybe his son becomes a welder, whatever. We just want to try to make sure that any expenses around his education are taken care of, and that the boy has a brighter future and as bright a future as he possibly can with the cloud that's hanging over things right
now. Not the lighthearted stuff, folks, you are used to from this, but that's okay because this is life.
It is life, and life is messy, and life is about counting your friends, and sometimes I said to Aaron at GaryCon when we were standing in my room having this impossibly hard conversation, and I said to Aaron something that I learned at Games Workshop that I have carried with me for years and years and years and years and years, which is you have to know when to write the word help on a piece of paper and hold it up and say, I need help. Because the people who never ask for help, invariably, it always makes things worse. But if you're brave enough to hold your hand up and ask for help, then we can. Then we know you've got a problem. Then we know we can try to help you solve it, or we can come to your aid. And I said to Aaron, you have to be the one that decides to hold up the piece of paper that says help. I can't do that, right? It's your life. It's not mine. I said, I want to help you, but I also, I don't want you uncomfortable. I said, it'll probably be a little uncomfortable because complete strangers are going to be talking about you and your health. I said, but we're not going to do anything until you say yes. And then he did. And that's what brought us here.
So it's going to be 9 p.m. Eastern on the Goodman Games Twitch channel. I will have all those links, folks. We will have a blog post going up on this. We'll have a reminder before we get there. And I will tell anybody who watches our live streams at 8:59 on Friday, I'm going to tell you all where to go. And it's not going to be where you're currently watching at that time. But this is a good cause.
Eric, I can't thank you enough for both the time here today and the follow-up posts. I don't have words. It's tough enough trying to get this off the ground. It's tough enough trying to get it all organized, but the bandwidth of people sharing this is tremendous, and the more the merrier.
This always hits home. Whenever this happens in the community, I was a cop for 20 years, and when you're a cop, even people that you don't know become your family, because especially in time of need, right? It's a family emergency and somebody's got cancer in their family and they're doing fundraisers. You don't know the person from a hole in the wall, but you do know them because you share these common interests. You care. In that case, it was our job. Right. But in this community, I feel for everybody in this community that has to go through this. I mean, I've gone through cancer. It wasn't fun. I've seen my son lose his mother when he was 13. It wasn't fun. But I will always be there to put my hand out if somebody's looking for help in this community. Because
God bless you, Eric. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And folks, I will have all the links available. I will be beating this into you in social media. It's important stuff. All right, folks. Jim, thank you for taking the time. It's July 4th. It's Not necessarily the easiest time. Right now, I have Rach prepping for the barbecue later. She's cutting. I don't have to.
I've got hamburgers and hot dogs for later. So.
We got chicken shish kebabs going.
Ooh, nice.
Should be fun. Yes. All right, folks. Listen, you hear my normal spiel about COVID. All I'm going to say is you're adults. Use your common sense. All right. Be safe. Be well. God bless. God bless Aaron in this case especially. And I will be back again tomorrow. Be good. And of course, now my screen gets big and I can't get the damn thing to end. There we go. Best laid plans.